of that time. And we feel pleased that we have a place that feels like a retreat. There's this aura about it. And we have struggled to maintain our presence here, but we are a very committed group. So we continue to thrive, perhaps, is even the right word, at least spiritually. Thrive.
Oh yeah.
And we are just so glad that we still can be here. The labyrinth is open almost all the time for your personal pleasure to come and use the labyrinth or bring a lunch and sort of picnic tables.
Or you can grab some books.
Yes. Dan made some excellent use of the time waiting to clean the bookshelves. I tried to get people interested in a game of charades, but that didn't. But we did have chances for some conversation. Now, the Pacifica Peace people have been in business for 18 years. 18 years in March, since the War of Iraq began. When we started meeting, we were a huge group. We are now a much smaller group, and most of our group are right here today, except for Betsy, who belongs to our St. Edmunds congregation as well as to the PPP. Initially, we spent time, the Peace Group, doing a lot of vigils on the highway, thinking about how we could change the national dialogue about stuff, which was challenging. And then eventually we decided we would focus on working locally to bring the ideas of peace to our own community, and that has worked very well. And then a couple years ago, we joined a larger organization, local organization called the Pacific Progressive Alliance. So we are one of four organizations that are under that umbrella. There's the Peace People, there is the Social Justice Group, and Dan is a Pacifica Social Justice Group. Dan's a big member of that, and some other friends members also. So that has allowed us to have a larger voice. So we support one another, like yesterday in the Social Justice Group had a protest on Highway 1. People from the other segments of the Pacifica Progressive Alliance showed up. When our Peace Group has, maybe 3 times a year, we've been having film events at the library. Last one, I think, was on voter suppression. The other one was on the Progressive Alliance show. So we support each other, and there's an online voice kind of newsletter, and Reverend Kathy regularly writes for that.
Pacifica Voice.
The Pacifica Voice writes for that as well. So we have our connections.
Oh, there you go.
And the Peace Alliance in Pacifica. And there's my son. We took some photos earlier.
Yeah.
We also have a presence on September, the week of the September 21st, we have a Peace Week. We do stuff in the community. We march on the Fog Fest, which hopefully will return itself. We give money to the schools to do peace projects, and that's been a wonderful thing. Our latest thing is the peace poles, and there are now several peace poles in Pacifica. This is the latest one to be planted. There was one planted during the pandemic at St. Andrew, which where's Marsha? She's a member of that congregation, so we planted one there. We also earlier, before the pandemic, planted one at Ingrid B. Lacey Middle School in the north end of town. Students were there, shared their thoughts about peace, and that's in front of the school. You have another step when you go by next time. Check it out. We're working on. There is one already but not yet planted at the Art Center, the Sanchez Art Center. There's one down the coast. Has it been planted at the Wilkerson School where Betsy's?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Now we're talking about putting one also in the Pacifica Garden that goes through the old quarry. So we are joyful to be able to plant these, and we want to see them everywhere, all over Pacifica. I wanted to share a few things about this peace pole. It comes from an organization called the May Peace Prevail on Earth International Organization or Group. And they are an organization that dreams of the whole human family standing in vigil and silent prayer for peace on earth. And they estimate that over 250,000 peace poles have been planted all over the world. They're in every country. They're even in remote areas like the North Pole.
I did not
The
know that.
magnetic North Pole. There's one on the River Jordan. There's one in Hiroshima. There's one in the pyramids of Giza. They are all over. So this is part of a growing thing. Planting peace poles is a way of bringing people together, to inspire them, to awaken them, and to uplift them and their human consciousness all over the world. These poles remind us to think and speak and act in the spirit of peace and harmony. We had not thought to plant our peace pole quite today, but once we got it, we debated, shall we do it now during the pandemic, or shall we wait when the whole congregation can join us? And then with the way things are, we just thought we all needed to plant this peace pole now. So consequently, we have chosen today, and this is the perfect day as we honor our hero and the man who inspired us so much, Martin Luther King, on the day his birthday is celebrated. Martin Luther King never, ever gave up on the goals that he had, and he peacefully pursued his work for peace, justice, and equality for all. And given our current state of division, this work is more important than ever. The Peace Pole Project, that is the international organization that makes these, believes that our thoughts and our words will carry vibrations strong enough to help heal and transform the human heart, bringing people of all faiths, backgrounds, and cultures to embrace the oneness of our planet. So like Dr. King, we must never give up on this journey. Now I'd like to have Reverend Kathy say a few words. Reverend Kathy is not a woman who ever gives up. That's for sure. She won't give up as people hassle her for allowing unhoused folks to stay in our church. She won't give up on helping people who have food scarcity. She personally has been making food and sending it over to the Pacifica Resource Center. She works closely with Anita Rees. She is our amazing priest.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for your patience in me getting here. Patience is a hard-won virtue for those of us who seek peace on earth. The desire for peace is not enough to have it. We have to embody it. And sometimes there's great struggle and great pain involved. As we go through the death pangs of inequality, injustice, voter suppression, economic suppression, pandemic, or what someone else wrote in New York Times recently, the 14 days of hell that we've been through. He called it all in. He called it insurrection, impeachment, and inauguration. No incoming president of the United States has ever had to face all of those at the same time. Many of them have faced one or another of them, but not all at once. We are a country that's in pain as we watch white supremacy die a slow and painful death. And that pain is inflicted on all of us. I had tears running down my eyes last night when I got a note from a clergy friend of mine. I live in Alameda, and the UCC pastor, who is my wife's pastor. And it was a note from the UCC saying, for the next 72 hours, if you hold anything related to Dr. King or the inauguration, be careful, because the threats are coming to the liberal churches. And come on, people, no, leave us alone. But we can't leave them alone either. Peace and freedom are bought with a price and a sacrifice. Nobody knew that better than Dr. King. And you see everybody talking about Dr. King, but they forget it was the Reverend Dr. King. And they sort of poo-poo the idea that he was a religious leader and a gifted pastoral care man, besides being a visionary and martyr in our own time. So suffice it to say that peace only comes when we do our peace work within ourselves, and then can outwardly express that peace within. Because without that inner peace, then we are just, go back and read 1 Corinthians 13. It says, without love, all of your efforts are just clanging cymbals and a lot of noise. And I think there's some rumor to that truth. I appreciate your faithfulness to the cause. And I appreciate my congregation more than I can tell you. I got off coffee hour yesterday. And Carol said to me, well, that was a short coffee hour for St. Edmunds. And I said, sorry, honey, but they all had to go split and do their justice things. So everybody had to leave because justice things were coming up for Sunday afternoon. And she said, would that every cleric in our area had the same problem. That's no problem, that's a gift. So we struggle. This congregation struggles to stay open. I'll be honest about that. We struggled exactly a year ago when we housed somebody through PRC. And I went through about 2 months of pure hell with the onslaught of the homeowners here. And threats and people showing up and being threatening to me personally and to members of the congregation, and promises to sue us and all of that. And it went all the way from city council down to the guy across the street. And we did it anyway. And that's the best way we can cement our part in all of this as a congregation, is to do exactly those kinds of brave things. And sometimes you have to do brave things on behalf of others because they cannot do it themselves, and certainly can't do it alone. So continued rich blessings on your whole venture here. I know some of you from lots of other places where I've been kind of in and out, and even though I don't live here, I certainly got in and out last year before the COVID hit, so that I could sort of not make an impact, but be impacted by your work. And that has successfully happened. I'm different now than when I came here. I would be anyway to some extent, but I am better and different because I came here and worked with you folks. Yeah. So, here's a prayer attributed to St. Francis, not one that's going to be any surprise to your hearing. But I'm going to sort of hesitate after each one and let you think for a second about what this prayer is asking of us. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. May God continue to bless this church community. The ground on which it is planted is holy ground. The hearts who come here are true hearts and holy hearts. For the works of their hands, holy work. I commend your work, all of you, and I thank you. The congregation is grateful for you doing this, and the bishop, by the way, is ecstatic. The fact that we have planted 10 trees as a result of all of this in Africa, because we planted one peace pole here, forwards the smile of the bishop in that he is a super justice person in climate change.
Great.
And so he said that's called carbon capture. He said, tend to your own trees on St. Edmunds property. You are helping the planet. So I thought that was kind of a kiss on the forehead where I wasn't expecting one. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's sufficient for the day.
We need to get some photos of you.
Oh, yeah, I'll pose.